Hello, everybody. So some crazy news on one of my smaller position, which got a lot bigger. It's Nebius. Let's talk about Nebius. It's up 60% right now in after hours. And Nebius, at close was a $15 billion company. And after market close, they announced a $17.4 billion deal, actually with an option to go past $19 billion. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a $19 billion deal over 5 years. And this deal is with none other than the hyperscaler Microsoft. Microsoft just signed the deal, and of course the news is hitting every single outlet, and the stock was up past $100 for many minutes. Seems to have crossed a little down, but it's still even $90. So the stock, and who knows what it's going to do tomorrow when people are actually awake and at their computer and are trying to assess the size of that deal. Of course, all of these news media, all of these news articles, they just take the SEC forms and they put it in a better format, but they add no more information. Some of the SEC form, so you learn nothing by reading the articles compared to the SEC form. So if you read the SEC form, you can see it's for their New Jersey data center, which we had talked about prior. So that's Vineland, New Jersey. It's for their New Jersey data center. Of course, enormous population center up there, right? I mean, so much of the U.S. population is up there, and it's for GPUs to be deployed in 25. So it begins it would have to begin right away. We're in September. So it begins in 25 and in 26. So that's when the deployment happens. And then the payment is through 2031. So contract value is through 2031. And think about that. It could be expanded to 19.4 billion. And these contracts, historically, they have a tendency to be increased and upside and expanded. So this is happening right now. The money is going to flow in right now. This is for tranche starting in 2025. So they're probably working really hard on this. And so it kind of puts the whole guidance they had given us in Q2 upside down. I mean, this number over the longer, and I'm not even sure this number is going to hold. This calls into question everything. A quick point, they likely got this deal, of course, because of their AI infrastructure, which is different, right? They make their own software. They have also like proprietary hardware that they make to really be a AI cloud for GPUs, as I call them, more than just renting the bare silicon. Nebius does much more than renting the bare silicon because they have proprietary hardware, but especially proprietary AI software. It's a full stack AI cloud that they offer. So this is also why they're able to get these contracts, while, for example, like an old Bitcoin miner wants to pivot in the GPU business, may not be able to do that. Although that huge deal also calls into question, I think, the value of Bitcoin miners. They are probably still undervalued, even if it's bare metal, because this is an insane. I don't think we've seen a deal this big. This is absolutely insane. I mean, this is a $15 billion company who got one contract from one customer who's significantly more, because it's going to be 19 billion. It's significantly more. It's 30% more than the current market cap. I mean, this is pretty crazy. And so when I look at the valuation, so if I look at my spreadsheet right now my spreadsheet right now is showing a $99 stock price, 22.9 billion enterprise value. If that stock price is imputed, my spreadsheet right now, actually, believe it or not, still tells me the stock is cheap, just by a hair. Not by much, 0.48. And I tend to consider stocks on EV over GP over RG under 0.5. I consider them cheap. So this is slightly still cheap, despite the crazy 60% run. This is insane. But think about that. The better question is, I had calculated, and I remember I had taken a midpoint to calculate 354% growth. I had taken the 26 guidance, cut it in half, and used the midpoint for that. And that was my assumption, 350% growth. So growing 249 million. Growing that by 350%, adding 350% to that. So we would have been past $1 billion. But now the question that I ask myself is, is this even correct? Like, and obviously the answer to that question is obviously no. This is not correct. I was way off. They're gonna grow much more than that, and they're deploying. This revenue is going to be deployed in 25 and in 26 in tranches starting in 25. So starting right now, as we discussed, and I think the contract is going to be upped. So trying to take and let's assume, of course, that the contract starts as they deploy, because they're deploying right now. So kind of doing a back of a napkin math and taking kind of like a very simple approach. You take the value of the contract, 19.4 billion, which is going to be the max. You divide it by 5. It's until 2031, and you get 3.88 billion of revenue a year, and that's the run rate, and that doesn't even take into account the growth in that number, the growth in that existing number, which I'm not even inputting in there. It's like I'm assuming that growth is free. I'm putting it in there for free. So if I take that number, I look at a revenue just with that number, it could be 15 times bigger than the current revenue. Like, that one deal is gonna be almost $4 billion a year in one single deal. And so when I input in my spreadsheet 1,600%, which may or may not be correct, I may be a little optimistic, but maybe I'm not, because they could do some deals in the EU, right? They have a lot of data centers in the EU. They could do deals in other regions of the world, perhaps with Microsoft again, with another hyperscaler. They have a Kansas data center that is coming up. So I have no idea whether I'm too optimistic or too pessimistic. What I know for sure right now is that with that number, I was way off, way too pessimistic. And so if I put 1,600% in revenue growth, which would be insane, but again, that contract is insane, that would be an enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth of a 0.107. This is crazy. And a rule of 40, well over 1,000. I mean, that rule of 40 is now meaningless, because it's all about the crazy growth, right? But revenue growth is impossible to predict. It's so much higher than I anticipated. I am so happy about owning this stock. The stock has now officially moved into a medium-sized position for me. What if we get another hyperscaler contract? What if we get a Google, for example, right, on an Amazon? Or what if we get some deployment from the same hyperscaler, Microsoft, but in Europe? That could be enormous. What about the growth from their existing customers? They already have existing customers. What if they keep having more demand? I think it was Shopify. Did they have Shopify? They have like a few big Canadian companies of their customers, well-known customers they already have. And then what about the value of ClickHouse? Right, the VCs keep valuing these companies, quite a bit. There's an IPO of a competitor of ClickHouse going on right now, which is valued really, really high. So you got to subtract that to the value of market cap, and then AV Ride, right, which is very autonomous vehicle solution, competes with way more likely than not. Is this going to be a markdown to zero, or is this going to be worth $1 billion or $2 billion? And they are other VC companies. I mean, this is an amazing company. This this is kind of like a mini AWS for GPUs in the making, is how I would look at this company. What a strange company in a way. It's like a mini big tech, a super mini big tech with that big tech history. And there's no doubt the CEO of Nebius was the former CEO of Yandex, and Yandex was the Google of Russia. There's no doubt that you are connected. When you have a CEO like that CEO is going to be connected, and that probably helped them a lot get that deal. So let's not forget, the CEO at the helm of this company is a Google or an Amazon style CEO, right? And so we also perhaps need to put a premium on that. So anyways, this was not investment advice, not financial advice, only entertainment, and boy, are we entertained tonight. Please please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.